Hey everybody, this is Kitchen Gourmet with Jay, and I'm Jay. Alright, so you want to make sure that the oil is already warm in the pan before you add the Italian sausage. Today we're making a penne pasta served with hot Italian sausage, spinach, some other vegetables, and a delicious red wine sauce. We're going to go ahead and cover this to let it cook all the way through. Now for the ingredients, we have a half cup of sliced garlic, a cup of Cabernet red wine. We have fresh white mushrooms sliced. Next to that, we have grape tomatoes sliced and some fresh spinach. Then we have a cup and a half of chicken broth, salt, pepper, and a delicious Italian blend seasoning that I put together. It has oregano, parsley, thyme, rosemary, and margarine in it. We have some Parmesan cheese and some delicious fresh basil. Next to that, we have cubed mozzarella, fresh cubed mozzarella, and some wine, peach wine. That's some fine wine. You're gonna wanna make sure that you're periodically flipping the sausage because we want to ensure that it not only cooks all the way through with the lid on, but gets a nice sear on both sides. I like to add a bit of seasoning to the meat while it's in the pot. So I'm going to grind up some pepper, black pepper. Couple of pinches of sea salt. This is coarse sea salt. Then we're going to go ahead and let this cook all the way through. Okay, so as you can see, it's been cooked. I took the sausage out and we're going to let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes because I don't want to cut into it yet because I don't want all the juices to pour out. I want to make sure that the juice stays inside of the sausage. Okay, so we're going to want to keep all of that oil and juice from the sausage in the pot and use that to saute our garlic. Again, this is a half cup of garlic. We're just going to saute it. We don't want to overcook it. We don't want it on for too long, just 1 to 2 minutes so that we can soften it up and have a lot of that flavor from the garlic pull out and be incorporated into our sauce. Again, we're making a wine reduction. That means we're going to simmer down the wine until all of the alcohol is removed. What we're looking for is a syrupy consistency. At this point in the cooking process, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, it smells amazing in here. And you would be correct, but we need to keep a cool head. We need to stay focused. The next step is going to be to add the red wine. Once we add that wine, we're just looking to simmer it. We're not trying to boil it, but after that, we'll go ahead and that's when we'll start to cook the pasta. Now we're using a Cabernet red wine. I like to cook with table wines as opposed to cooking wines just because cooking wines have a lot of extra sodium and they don't have the flavor that I really like. But you're going to want to stir this throughout. We're going to be stirring this a lot because we want all of that flavor to blend well. We want it to be mixed. We want it to be homogeneous. Now, again, I'd like to highlight that we aren't trying to boil this. We just want a nice simmer to reduce the alcohol. And then from there, I have the water already boiling for the pasta. I'm going to go ahead and salt the water prior to adding the pasta. Now keep in mind, if we were making spaghetti, in addition to salting the water, I would add a little bit of oil to keep the spaghetti from clumping. But in this case, a couple of nice mixes throughout the cooking process will keep the pasta from clumping. Now, the trick to good pasta is to make it al dente. That's not too soft, not too firm, but it has a firmness to it. The pasta comes out perfect. That's the Italian way, and that's the way that I do it at home. So in addition to wanting that syrupy consistency for the red wine sauce, the reason being we don't want it to be too watery or too wet. We want it to accent the dish very well. I'm going to take 2/3 cup of water with the starch from the pasta and add it to the sauce to thicken it up a little bit more. Okay, so take a look at the sausage. It's been 10 to 15 minutes. You can see it's cooked all the way through. I went ahead and sliced it up. Here we have the pasta. It's also done. These are going to get added last after we get the vegetables up in the sauce. So you can see the consistency of the sauce. This is the syrup that I was talking about. You can see it's been fully reduced. So all of the alcohol has been taken out. So we're gonna go ahead and add the chicken broth. Again, this is 1.5 cups of chicken broth. Make sure you get a nice stir. We're also going to add the starch. So that's 2/3 cup of starch. This is a thickening agent for the sauce. Again, it's really important that we get a nice stir, a nice mix, so that the sauce becomes homogeneous before we start adding extra vegetables. So once that's taken care of, we can go ahead and start adding vegetables. These are the mushrooms. These are white mushrooms. You can use any type of mushroom you like. I decided that I wanted to slice up some white mushrooms. But I guess if anything, the only thing I would advise against using would be hallucinogenic mushrooms, unless you get down like that. Again, you want to make sure you keep stirring. So now I'm going to add the tomatoes. These are cherry tomatoes, sliced cherry tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and add the whole bowl. Now, I'm going to add the cherry tomatoes at the same time that I add the spinach, because I don't want either of these to wilt. I just want these to warm up a little bit. The sauce is already done. So at this point, once the vegetables are a little warmer, I'm going to go ahead and add the sausage, the pasta, and then plate. But again, I don't want the cherry tomatoes or the spinach to get wilted at all, or absorb too much of the liquid, too much of the sauce. I guess you could say I don't want the tomatoes or the spinach to get lost in the sauce. I apologize. I couldn't pass up that opportunity. Actually, I retract my apology. This is my show. I will make all of the corny jokes that I want, and you will appreciate it. Show me some respect. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the seasonings. This is ground black pepper, a couple of pinches of coarse sea salt, and again, the seasoning, the Italian blend seasoning that I put together using fresh herbs. There's rosemary, thyme, oregano, margarine in here. Now, you don't want to overpower the dish, but I measured out just the right amount of each. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this whole thing. And again, make sure you're getting a nice stir. Yeah, twist it like a stir, like a skirt, like a twist it like a skirt, yeah. Once everything's nice and stirred up, we can go ahead and add the sausage. Take note, cooked all the way through. That's what we wanted. It isn't too brown. It's perfect. Again, get a nice stir going. Yeah, twist it like a skirt, like a skirt, like a twist it like a skirt, like a skirt, yeah. At this point in the cooking process, you really want to start eating the ingredients, but you have to avoid that. I don't know if anyone else goes through this, but I do every single time. And I'm gonna continue to bring it up because I don't think it's fair. And then we're gonna go ahead and add the pasta, al dente penne pasta. I'm gonna make sure that this gets all nice and stirred together before we add the accents. We top it off. Take note of the presentation. You know, a lot of my approach to cooking has always been, I want to make something delicious, but in addition to being delicious, I want to make something that is presentable, something that looks good as well as tastes good. So the colors that I use, the vegetables that I use, the way that I present the meal is all intentional. And I feel like it's an important part of the cooking process. You have to be creative. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of fresh chopped basil. It's straight from the garden. We grow a lot of the different vegetables that we use in cooking just because I have a preference for that fresh taste in my meals. I like to know exactly where my produce has been sourced from. Now, again, we don't want to overpower this with the basil because basil has a very strong flavor. So we're just gonna add a little bit, sprinkle it around. And then we're going to add a little bit of Parmesan. We're not going to use a lot just because Parmesan has a very salty taste to it as well. And in addition to that, Parmesan cheese is a very neutral color. So like I said, it comes down to presentation. I don't want to mute the different colors that I've already incorporated into this plate. So we're just going to sprinkle a little bit around. Now we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of the cubed fresh mozzarella. I prefer to use fresh mozzarella as opposed to using bagged shredded mozzarella, for the same reason that I prefer to use fresh basil or fresh ingredients over store-bought produce. It comes down to the flavor. It comes down to the quality and taste. Now we're gonna go ahead and mix it up. We don't want the mozzarella to melt too much. That's why we added it at the end. Right now this meal is ready to eat. Because if this melts, it's gonna start to clump all of the pasta together, and we don't want that. We want each ingredient to have its moment.
This is a quick, easy, nutritious, classic Italian meal that you can make in the comfort of your home. And the taste? Delicious. So once again, this has been Kitchen Gourmet with Jay. I've been Jay. Have a blessed day.